I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes, But Why podcast. Yeah. This episode of Yes, But Why podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Yes, But Why. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Download your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/Yes, But Why. So you grew up in Pittsburgh. Did you start doing, now Pittsburgh is currently, thanks to Kristy and the like, a booming comedy town, but was it a booming comedy and theater town when you were growing up there?
I don't think so. I don't know. I did not have my eye on that at all. I was not a theater person, or I wasn't tuned into that at all. But I don't think so. I mean, obviously arcade has brought a lot of, I don't even think there was a lot of improv before arcade, but it could just be, I moved from Pittsburgh basically when I went to college, like you, going to Texas. Mm-hmm. So that was in 89. Mm-hmm. So from then on, like, I didn't know a lot of, there's one, like when I'd come home at college, I think there was a improv group, but I was not, again, clicked into that. I didn't get clicked into improv until I moved to Chicago after college. So
where'd you go to college?
Penn State.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did you go for?
Hotel management.
Oh,
so
I love
this would be a
hotels.
good, yes, this would be a good actual lesson for the people who are like, what do I do now? Because I had no designs on theater or improv or anything like that at all until I moved to Chicago. And then I moved here because I had a job out of college, and Kristy, Entwistle then, Nolen now, she had moved here to do theater, and my job was like, do you want to go to Ohio or Chicago or West Palm Beach? And I said, I'll go to Chicago because that's where Kristy is, and I can move in with her. And, I didn't want to go to West Palm Beach by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like a person that is good being like, hey guys, what are you doing tonight? I probably would make zero friends if I didn't have one friend with me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I was never outgoing. I need one person next to me. So, so I moved here because I'm like, oh, at least I'll have a friend there. And yeah. And then, Chicago, it's like you can't walk 2 blocks without being hit with improv.
So there's just people on every corner with flyers going like, you want to take an improv class, kid?
Well, yeah, but like everyone's like, oh, I'm taking a class at Second City. You are? Oh, my roommate's taking a class at Second City. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and in the 90s, it was so big, I mean, it's monstrous now, but in the 90s, it was like really like hot and kind of like, I don't, like you felt like you were doing something, it was real like, but now it's like, and then it made it smaller here to like know people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like now I'm just getting to know like this improv group, and it makes you feel like you have like a posse or something,
Yeah.
But now it's so big that it's like there could be, I mean, also I don't do it really as much anymore, but there's like improvisers that don't know each other. And like in the 90s, it was at least you had heard of somebody, or you couldn't sit in a room with an improviser and not be like, do you know this person? Oh, I know that person. If you didn't know each other, you at least knew, each of you knew 5 or 6 of the same people, you know. But now it's so big, people don't even, like, you could sit in a room and not know somebody, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were in on the pulse. I mean, you were in on it when it was, like, new and hot, and, like, the time when all of the people who are, like, currently reaping the benefits of being famous from it, all the students I have are, you know, it's like I was saying, you know, I'm talking to my students, and, like, you know, there isn't going to be a Tina Fey and an Amy Poehler from it. There just isn't anymore. Like, it's not a new thing. Yeah. It's just, there's so many people doing it that it's no longer, you know, like, for instance, what was it? My agent was like, it's really good to have improv on your resume. But then it's like, okay, but everybody has improv on their resume.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? It's like saying, I know how to type. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, great. I'm glad you have that skill. Speak.
Exactly. Like, it would be odd if you didn't have it on your resume. You know?
That should be the thing where they're like, I don't understand. Where is the improv school on this resume? I don't. What did you do?
That should be like your special skill. Never took an improv class. Yeah.
All the angry stand-ups listening do that, because I know you hate it. So many stand-up friends of mine are just like, improv. But I'm like, you know what? Comedy has 2 ways about it. It's either you do it on your own or you do it in groups. And some of us feel more comfortable in groups. So don't make fun of us. You guys want to stand by yourself with a microphone? Good luck to you. I would like 7 or 8 people near me, so that when I go, I don't know, they can help me, you know?
Yeah. Funny.
Man. So, I mean, at the time when you were there, it was small community. It was like, you know, the cool new thing. Why did Hotel Management Sue go into an improv class? Just because Kristy was like, you're coming with me? Or did you think
No,
it helped
I
hotels?
would go and watch her. She was taking classes at Second City. I would go and watch her. And, I mean, she's hilarious, you know, and it was very fun. And truthfully, those were the people I, like, felt more comfortable hanging out with, you know. And then she was taking an improv class with Ed Garza, who at the time was, like, the head of he was administratively the head of the improv training center. And he was like, if you want to take a class, I will give you your first class for free, which he knew, you know, once he got me in, then I would just keep doing classes.
Drugs.
So yeah. So,
so
I was like, sure, you know, because I like free things, and I liked all of Kristy's friends better than anybody else I was meeting, you know.
Now, were you working at a hotel? You said that you were, you know, had a job, and they were like, where do you want to move? And you picked Chicago. So were you, like, working for the corporate office of some hotel chain? You don't have to say which one if you don't want, but I will proffer that I worked for Marriott for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I was working at the Ambassador West Hotel, which I can easily say because now it's a condo. It's across from the Ambassador. It's across from the Ambassador East, which is people have heard of more because the pump room is in the Ambassador East. So I worked for this, like, out of college. I worked for this historic hotel company. I forget. I honestly don't even remember what the name of it. It was a historical hotel at the time. So I worked for them. I was like a management and training, and then the more improv I would take, the more classes I would take, the less I wanted a 50-hour-a-week job. So then I would, like, get, like, I was like a manager. I was like a front desk manager at this Ambassador West, was probably the highest I ended up getting there. But then I would take more improv classes and be like, I don't want to work 50 hours a week. And then so I demoted myself to other jobs. Like then I worked for the Four Seasons. I worked at the Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, which is a Four Seasons hotel. So I would like slowly get more and more hourly jobs as opposed to like moving up the other way. I was like kind of slinking myself out of hotel management.
Yeah. Hotels are kind of a crazy thing. I worked for hotels for many years, and I find it probably one of the more dangerous places. Not dangerous like dangerous to go into a hotel. No. In fact, I always tell people if you're in a new city and you feel unsafe, go to the nearest hotel because they'll help you.
Yeah.
I've helped hundreds of people in just that situation where they walk in and they're like, where am I? And you're like, okay, here's a map and here I can help you with everything. And by the way, there's food upstairs and, you know, like all sorts of different stuff. Like, but at the same time, like, it's definitely, there's so many nooks and crannies of a hotel and you spend a lot of time there and people sleep there. So there's something illicit that happens, you know, there's wild, crazy things that happen in the bowels of hotels and all sorts of stuff. So, did you just stop working there altogether or did you just work your way into hourly jobs so you could still have a day job, but also did improv?
So, yeah, then I stopped at the Ambassador West, and like I said, I moved over and I worked at the Ritz-Carlton into hourly jobs because I was getting more like, I think I got hired to tour with Second City then, and I was touring, and you can't have a you know, like a real job really when you're touring because it's like, Monday through Wednesday I'm going to be in North Carolina. I can't be a manager that day, you know, like you can't do that. So I would only ever do jobs then that I could kind of like say, this is what I'm doing this over here. I'm touring over here and I'm doing these shows. So I need to have a very flexible schedule of like, I could tell you what I'll work this week and next week. And they were usually, and the Ritz, actually, it was very fun because they were very good. Like, I think, you know, it's nice to have someone who wants to work, and it was just fun to like have that clock in, clock out. I don't have to be here all. I felt like at a hotel you're like there until 10 o'clock. If there's a, you know, at night, and if anything happens, then you're like stuck there. You know?
Yeah, if you're the manager, for sure.
Yeah, so
for sure. Yeah,
I loved that. Like, I started to actually like it when I was clock in, clock out. You know?
Yeah. I find that that's the case with a lot of jobs. Some people seem to like think that the cool thing to do, like, you know, like growing up means becoming a manager, but I think some people are manager people and some people are not manager people. And you need to like just accept that.
I completely agree. I think even if I wasn't distracted by improv, I am not a manager person. I was not good at managing people. You know, I was like, I just wanted someone to tell me what to do. That's generally how I am.
The trouble with hotels, like in general, and I always find it interesting when people go to school for it, because I'm like, there's such a ceiling on what you can do in a hotel. Like, there's only so many jobs, and you can't just be the general manager if you're not, I don't know, rich or much older or like have worked in millions of hotels. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
and have done all those jobs beforehand. Like, you know what I mean? It takes a long time to, and it's just, it's just, I mean, I don't regret that that's what I chose. But I was very like, when I graduated high school, I'm like, I don't know. I had zero idea of anything that interested me. And, you know, my dad was like, I bet you could get in to Penn State if you did this. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, I was very like, I didn't have a lot of like knowing what I wanted. What
Penn
would that
State's
be?
Pretty cool. Penn State's kind of awesome.
Oh, I loved Penn.
No matter
and even
what.
when I was at, I loved it there. I mean, that was the time of my life. But even when I was there, I wasn't like, I wish I could go for 4 years just to like have fun and make friends, and then go for 4 years to like actually glean something from it.
Wouldn't it be great if we all went to college in our 30s? Like, it was like
Yeah.
we had to be, you weren't able to go to college until you're 30 years old. Like,
Yeah.
you try to apply earlier, and they're like, get some life experience, kid.
Yeah.
Have a few jobs.
Yeah.
We'll see what you're really interested in. I would have loved
Right.
that. I would have
Yeah,
actually
or do like
listened.
two colleges where it's like, this
read
is your
books.
fun time college,
Yeah.
and then this is your like learning time college.
Yeah. My husband's always talking about how, like, college isn't really a requirement. Like, the way they told us back in the day, like, you got to get a degree. Without a degree, you can't do anything. And it's just really not the case anymore. Like, it's like, no, you can live a nice, perfectly lovely life without a college degree, as long as you develop, go get a skill or work regularly in a particular place and then develop skills from working there. But I personally think, for me, I think college was a great, like, practice adulthood. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I left home in Boston, went to Dallas, Texas, which is so far away. My parents could not save me. You know what I mean? Like, I jumped off the cliff and was like, I'm going to do it. But I went to a super safe Catholic college that, like, was my entire class was 300 people. So it was like high school, but, in a gentle little campus where they were like, it's okay, God loves you, keep reading. And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, and that helped me develop, different things happened. I learned about life. And then when I graduated, I was like, okay, now I can try to get a job and move places and do my life, But, when I was 18, I was like, I don't know. So, I don't know. I feel like, it's a very expensive practice adulthood, but it still was valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so hotels are exciting. Whether or not they end up being your, like, forever job, I've actually thought about it myself, that if I ever, like, when I go back, if I need an hourly job, I'd love working at a hotel. I'm always looking at hotel job listings. My husband's always like, what are you looking at that? I was like, ooh, they're hiring overnight at this place downtown. And he was like, why are you looking at that? And I was like, I don't know. It's fun. It's cool.
I know.
I don't know.
The overnight was fun. What did you do?
I worked front desk for years. I worked front desk. My favorite job ever. And I worked at a lot of hotels. Love all of you hotels. But my favorite one was I opened up a Residence Inn by Marriott in Times Square. And the best thing is, so in New York City, hotel workers are union. So if you're not already in the union, you're not getting a hotel job, right? But I had worked at hotels in Texas before I moved to New York, and I was dying to get a hotel job. So I kept applying and applying, and they kept saying, you're not in the union, we can't do it. And then finally I applied for the job, and they were like, great, because we are brand new and we are opening from scratch, you can be non-union. And then 6 months after we open, if you guys decide to go union, you can. And it did, you know what I mean? And that all worked out, whatever. But at the time I was like, sure, great. And it was camp. It was camp for like a month, because they weren't open to the public for the first month I worked there. And all it was filling the 500 rooms with their stuff. So like, and the elevators were broken. So like, there were hundreds of us that worked at the hotel, and we were standing on the stairs every few steps and passing stuff up. Like, it was so funny, like, and it was a Residence Inn. So it had kitchenettes and stuff. So like, we're passing up like coffee machines. We're passing up comforters. We're passing up full things of silverware. Like, it was so great. It was like every day, every person in the hotel worked together to put everything together. We took lunch together, and they bought us pizza every day. And then in the afternoons, the front desk people would go, every department would separate to do like training of their own stuff. The engineering guys got taught how to fix this thing, how to fix that thing, how this works. And the front desk, they taught us how to do the computer system. And it was great. I mean, it was so much fun. I've never worked at a hotel where all the departments were so close before, you know, like usually it's like, I don't know, the people that work in housekeeping, they're all right, you know, but in this, like, we spent so much time together that there was no divide. There was no like, oh, the front desk people, oh, engineering or whatever. It was just like everyone was together. You'd be like, hey man, can you help me with this room? The toilet's broke. And they're like, oh man, you know, like, so it wasn't like, oh, I can't believe I have to do my job. It was like pals having a fun time.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was close enough to Times Square so that it was fun and exciting, but like not too wild that like we had thousands of people around us. We were facing the other way, the other direction. We weren't facing inward toward all of the madness. We were on the other side of the street, so like we had a quiet street. But yeah, I mean, hotels are super fun. I just really enjoyed it. All the front desk stuff I just liked meeting new people and, you know, at night watching people out the front window. You just stare at people watch while you're waiting for somebody to check in. Like,
I mean, I love the front desk. That's what I would do again too if I ever did. But the front desk is the restaurant stuff. I don't like that as much, but I do like the front desk.
Yeah. I mean, working in restaurants is a whole nother ball game. Somehow it's like gotta be the fanciest place in the world to work, yet somehow everyone I've ever met that works in restaurants is the saddest people like ever. You're just like, I'm so sorry. You know, I want to be like, how do I make this better for you? And there's just no way, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh, wild. So when you're in Chicago, you're working at the hotels, but you started touring with Second City. How many tours did you go on? How long were you doing that? And did you eventually stop working at the hotel and work sort of full-time touring, or how did that go?
I can't remember if I ever stopped, because I always liked being really busy. So I don't know. And I toured about a little over 3 years, I think. Maybe longer, 3 or 4. So probably from 2001 to 2005 about, so 4 years. And then 2005 I got on one of those ships, me and my husband and some other people. We started doing those. Have you heard about those Second City cruise ships?
No, tell me about them.
Okay, so we were the first to. Second City made had a relationship with Norwegian Cruise Lines, and I'm surprised you haven't heard about these, because they get mocked on shows all the time. Like, I'm going to do improv on a cruise ship.
I mean, I've heard about people working on cruise ships. Like, I've had friends that did it. I guess I just never knew that it was connected to Second City.
Well, I think Second City, this was the first time. It was in 2005, and I think they did improv on cruise ships before this. But Second City in 2005 started this contract with NCL where they would put Second City performers on their cruise ships. And we were like the guinea pig first ones to go out. And we did it was from New York. It was a Caribbean cruise. It was from New York, and then it would go all the way down the East Coast, the Atlantic, and through I don't know if you've heard of this, because I didn't until I was working, the Sargasso Sea. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's like close to Florida, down in between, and it would go to like the Bahamas and some of those small Caribbean islands, and then come back up to New York. It would take 2 days to get down there, I think, two or three, and then every day it would be a different Caribbean island, and then we would come back up. So, and then me and my husband, and because we were the first, it was like we had gotten away with something. Nobody knew, like, what to do really, like, because the other performers that are on there would have like 3 or 4 shows, and it just we had one night of shows, 2 45-minute shows, and then that's it. And we had like complete guest privileges, so it was basically like we were on a cruise. And sometimes it would be 10 days in between our shows, and we could do everything that the guests can, and then we would be getting paid, and we had 2 45-minute sketch comedy shows.
Oh my God.
It was nuts. Then slowly they would add more on, like, okay, so now you're doing one night of 2 45-minute shows. Now we're going to throw in also an improv show into the lounge, which was fun too. I mean, we were dying to do something, so the whole time we were there, me and my husband ended up doing this for about 2.5 years. We didn't do just the Caribbean. We would do the Caribbean, then we did the Mediterranean, which was like every day I would wake up and be like, I'm so happy right now. Because it was just amazing. Like the Mediterranean was amazing. We would start in Barcelona, we would go to Rome every week or every 10 days. So we'd be like in Barcelona, Rome, we went to Istanbul, we went to Egypt, we went to the pyramids, we went to Turkey, we went to all these Greek islands. We went to Athens. We went to like Venice. We went all around the Mediterranean, and we did these 2 45-minute shows every 10 days. It was nuts. And then after the Mediterranean one, then we went to Gibraltar. Like we passed over, we rode the ship from Europe all the way over through the Panama Canal over to New York. Then we did Alaska, and that was our last one that we did. But I think we did a year of Caribbean cruises, and then we did Alaska, and I got pregnant, and no, I didn't get pregnant in Alaska. I got pregnant like the day before. I found out I was pregnant the day before we embarked on this 3-month Alaskan tour.
Oh.
And yeah, and I was sick.
That must have been rough.
I was so sick, and I would have to go in Alaska to see a midwife in Alaska.
Yeah.
Just to like check on, and I mean, like, an Alaskan midwife is the midwifiest midwife that there is. Like I got a pamphlet that told me what to do if I was alone and had to have the baby, like in a remote location,
Hey man, you were on cruises. That was some valid information.
I know, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so anyway,
wild.
So I basically did the front desk while I toured here in the States, and then when we went on these cruise ships, then obviously I didn't anymore. But
wow.
And the cruise ships lasted until 2008, and then I had my first kid.
Wow. So you mentioned that your husband was with you. Were you married at the time, or was this like your boyfriend and you decided to go do these comedy cruises and then...
No. Yeah, we were married, and in fact, Second City like chose couples when they could, because then they could share a cabin together.
Saving money. Good job,
guys. Yeah.
I love that. That's like a side thing. Like, I thought for sure you're going to be like, they chose couples because they figured that way you had a friend. And I was like, oh, that's nice. No, save money on rooms. Hilarious. Yeah. Hilarious.
I know. No, that's probably what they would say, but no, it was so you could share cabins together.
That's so funny. Oh, man. How many people were in the group with you? Like, how many people toured with you for 3 years?
So touring, there was 6 or 7. I have a really bad memory, but yeah, 6 or 7, usually three men and 3 women, and then a musical director and a stage director. So that's 8.
Huh.
That's 8, I think.
So you did musical improv while you were, or musical sketches as well?
With Second City?
Yeah, on the cruise, because you said there was a musical director.
Are we talking about just the cruise ship or touring?
I don't know, all of them.
Okay,
whichever you're sharing about.
Okay, well, touring, it was usually 3 men, 3 women, a musical director, stage director, and everything would be scored. Like all the sketches are scored, and in between sketches, it's always scored. And some of the sketches are musical sketches, and some are not, and some are improv games that get music with them. But there's always a musical director that scores it and or plays songs. And same with on the ship. There was always a musical director to either play or do music in between.
Wow,
stuff.
That's such a great opportunity. Now, you said you were the first group to be doing this. Did you guys just like go, ooh, we got the best job ever, we're never going to quit this, and that's why you kept working for 3 years? Was it like when you and your husband decided not to do it, were there people scrambling to fill your spot?
Well, they grew this. I mean, it became huge. So then it started with this one ship, and I think it was like, is this going to work out? And then it grew and grew, and they did it for maybe 8 or 10 years, and it ended up being like 5 or 6 ships out at once with Second City people on them. So it
Hence
got
the jokes, right?
And then I think it got more like they did end up having to do more jobs. Like you have to also host this murder mystery thing, which a lot of people like. I am a very lazy person who could just watch Law and Order all day long and be so happy with that. I like not having responsibilities. A lot of people being on a ship drives them crazy because, it's kind of like The Shining. You're stuck there and, they need more interaction than just the people on the ship that you see all the time. So a lot of people like it when they have more tasks to do. I'm fine with not doing anything ever.
That was always the case, not just later in life.
I can entertain myself doing honestly, just watching TV. It's all I ever want to do. Yeah,
right on. I also enjoy TV quite a bit, and Law and Order.
Yeah, I miss those days. That ship, there was a lot of Law and Order, a lot of Judging Amy. I would go through Veronica Mars. I was watching. I'd just get chunks of seasons of TV.
Man, that's super fun. So after your Alaskan tour, when you had gotten pregnant, and I love the Alaskan midwife story, but what happened after that? You guys came back to Chicago and settled down?
Yep, we came back to Chicago, and then I was pregnant. My first son was born in November. We got back in August, and
wow.
And when I came back, the man I work for now, he was this advertising guy in Chicago was like, why aren't we should be using all the talent that Chicago has to write for us in advertising and stuff. Let's use these guys. We could, they can write, they're better presenters. Let's get some of these improv people in here. So that had happened, that this advertising guy, his name's Ron Lazzaretti, that he's here from Chicago. He had started auditioning improvisers in the city to come down and either present in this for advertising or write or brainstorm ideas or even do workshops and teach people about collaboration and stuff like that. So when I got back, probably 25 of my improv friends were doing this job, and thankfully they called me and my husband Paul in, and like it's all freelancing of like, you want to come in and write for this, or you want to come in and brainstorm on this. So that helped us adjust back into living in Chicago, that we would both do that, because I obviously couldn't tour anymore. Paul teaches improv, but that's what we kind of did when we got back, kind of readjusting back into Chicago improv life.
That's awesome. What an awesome gig to get to. And kudos to the advertising scene that they wanted to take advantage of the improvisers. I am often saying that I've done a couple of commercials, and there were definitely a few where I got hired because I did improv, but then, you like are handed the copy and it's like, okay, well, this is what I've got to say, right? And they're like, yeah, feel free to mix it up if you want. And I was in this one where like my lines were the sales pitch. Like it was like, you're telling me that I get this much for the per month? It was the like sales part. And they were like, yeah, whatever you feel like you could do. And I was like, how could I change this line? Like, I can't.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this is ridiculous. But yeah, that must be really, I wonder if that man is why there are like 47 Geico commercials going at once, and they're all hilarious in totally different ways. If so, good job, everyone.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, whenever I see, I'm like, guys, at this point, there's so many of us, like, if advertising isn't hilarious at all times, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Well, yeah.
No.
It's funny. A lot of people, like, it goes through waves. Like, advertising goes through waves of what is popular. A lot of people don't want to be funny, or a lot of, like, clients or brands don't want to be funny. So it's, but, like, improv is good just for, like, thinking differently, too. Like, it's not all, you don't always have to produce something that's funny. You're just producing something that somebody else, or a different way of thinking about something,
So did you keep working in advertising after you had your baby?
Yep, I still work for that same man.
You still do, like, right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
He started a company, and I worked for him for probably 10 years now, on and off. Like, we're a group of freelancers, and I still work for him, and he has a company called Hog Butcher, and
that's great.
We write for him, and we like I said, do workshops, and just generally, like, we'll do a workshop about team building or collaboration, or coming up with ideas or brainstorming. And actually, I work with 5 other people that, back when I started in Chicago, I also did Comedy Sports.
Oh, yeah.
And at Comedy Sports, I met this group of friends, and we did a sketch show together called Brick. And now, years later, it's ended up that all 5 of us, there's one woman that still lives in LA, and she doesn't actively work with us, but the other ones of us all live in Chicago, and we all work for Ron at Hog Butcher. So that's been nice. Like, yeah.
That is so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my God. How wonderful would that be? Oh man.
Yeah.
Hey, job gods, hear that. That sounds wonderful. I would love one of the troops I was in to all of a sudden get a day job together. That would be super fun.
Yes, thank you for your excitement, because sometimes you forget, like sometimes you forget how good you have it. But really, I mean, that's all you ever, like, growing up and being young, you'd be like, wouldn't it be great to work with all these people all the time? And like, actually, you forget that now that's what I get to do. So
yeah,
it's nice to hear somebody else's excitement that reminds you of it.
Absolutely. I mean, improv troupes just have, like, they've gone through the team building part. They've learned how to collaborate in a way that is open and like just allows you to be who you are while you're representing your idea, and they don't like shut you down. Like, there's just something nice about the philosophy of improv when it comes to creating creative ideas like that. So the fact that your entire team that you work with are all schooled in this like give and take openness to ideas must just make working just a lot easier than I'm sure a lot of offices.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we have fun. I mean, not to mention we all have such a shared history now that it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's great. We love it. It's also a little bit like brothers and sisters. Like we also squabble. Is that the right word? Squabble?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all day long. About ridiculous things of just like, that's not how that is. And I don't, like squabble right now, I'd have 4 people attacking me about if I said it right or not. But so it's really, it's fun. And yes, I'm very grateful that I get to work with these guys.
So is this when you got into advertising and writing for advertising, is that when you got into creative writing? Like writing books?
I've always kind of done that a little bit, even on the side. I think, writing for Second City, sketch writing and writing now for advertising has helped me be more fearless about sharing my ideas. But I feel like I wrote, like even when I was on the ship, I wrote a lot. So no, but it's definitely all helped,
So how did you get to writing your children's book, Someday a Bird Will Poop on You? How did that happen?
That was just really like do you ever like in the car or in the plane, it's where I want to write the most? Do you have that? I only ask because I've seen on the internet that other people have that thing too.
Well, I mean, I'm one of those people who I always want to write when I can't write. Like when I'm in the shower, I have the best ideas. Or like if I'm driving the car, I will have the best ideas. My husband now is on point to write down ideas when I'm driving, because I always drive when we take long road trips. And then I'll be like, wait, put your phone down right now and I need you to write these 3 words. And I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he'll work through an idea with me. So that's fun.
Yeah. So, but I get real righty in a car for some reason. I don't know why. Or like I said, on the plane. I think it's like I don't know. I should Google it more. But anyways, I was in a car driving to Pittsburgh with the boys, or maybe just one boy at the time, and my husband. And I just wrote it on the way. And I think it's just like me trying to make the boys not like me, which is like worrying about everything, or having like I kind of always have to talk myself out of not having a real doomy reaction to things. Like my immediate reaction to everything is like, this is going to be terrible. We're going to end up crashing. This is going to be awful. And I have to actively talk myself and remind myself, of more as like now I know from my kids' school, more positive self-talk, and I have to remind myself to choose my own reaction, which is what the book is basically about. It's just be prepared things are going to happen, and you have to decide how you're going to react to them. You know, you can react like I always react, which is like, oh my God, this is awful. Or you could have a more positive reaction to them. So I wrote the book just in desperation of like trying to get the kids to not to have a more positive reaction, as opposed to thinking everything was going to be terrible.
I feel like that's what all of parenting is just like you examine yourself, decide what the things you don't like about yourself, and then all of your lessons for your children are just how you cannot be me.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it is.
It's funny because now that I have my own child, I'm trying to think back on like what my parents taught me, like specific little lessons, you know, because now that I know that, I'm like, what were they trying to stop me be about themselves? Like, what thing were they that they didn't want me to be, you know, like,
right.
Like, I wish you weren't this thing, you know. My dad's number one lesson of all time, which I think speaks for itself, was have confidence in yourself, which I think probably means he didn't have confidence in himself. But, you know, he said that to me so often, like constantly, to the point where I was overconfident. I was like, my sister was just like him and was kind of like, oh, I guess nobody really likes me. But I was like, everyone loves me.
Yeah,
Look
that's
at me.
funny.
You know, so I took it and ran with it hard.
Yeah.
But that's so fun though. Like, it's such an interesting thing that you have sort of acknowledged about yourself, a sort of gloominess that you acknowledge is something that happens to you. And it's good that you're working, you know, to give yourself a more positive outlook, even if it is just to help your kids. That probably also helps you quite a bit.
Yeah.
How did improv affect it?
Improv affected the
gloominess.
I mean, that I actually, like, I wouldn't say that I'm like gloomy, but I am. Is it maybe pessimistic or not? I think I'm. What's it called when like you prepare yourself for the worst, as opposed to expecting good things to happen?
Yeah,
you know,
like
you have to
teach
yourself to expect good things to happen, but I was always instead preparing for the worst, you know, as like a protective thing, which, you know, when you prepare for the worst, then you're like, it gives out a different energy than expecting something good to happen. So, you know, with improv, you definitely learn, I think, that you have to be more positive, or you have to just kind of be like, oh, well, whatever happens, happens, or else you're never going to get on stage, really.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to, if you overthink everything, and you kind of just have to throw everything to the wind. So I for sure think that helped me, you know, if not subconsciously, consciously, probably both, you know, getting out there and being like, oh, well, it's okay if I suck right now, as long as I get out there.
Yeah. Yeah, plus the older I get, the more I am like, well, across the board, I would say 80% has been pretty good, you know? So there's 20%. I got to live through that 20%. But, you know, mostly things are good, you know? Like, try to focus on that part versus, and just let it be in that way. When you first got pregnant and were... And we're working for the advertising agency, did you do any improv, or was it around that time when you kind of stopped doing it?
No, I would still do it, you know, occasionally, just not nearly as much or as consistently. Yeah. But I still was doing it on occasion. But, you know, like when the kid is young and nothing is like as much of a structured schedule, you know?
Yeah, I understand. My baby is 1.5, so
yeah.
he is currently
so
sleeping in the room next to me.
Yeah, and now you're finally starting to get a little bit of like, you can predict more, you know, what's going to happen or what your schedule's going to be like or anything like that. But I like when they're new, you're like, I'm not going to do an 8:00 show.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't even know where I would find a babysitter on Saturday night at 8 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do an 8:00 show, and I'm not paying $60 to do it. Or, you know.
Paying $60 to do it. Why would you have to pay $60 to perform? You don't have to pay to perform.
For the babysitter.
Babysitter. Right.
Yeah.
Jesus, of course. Good Lord. Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot that part. Exactly. I think about that all the time. I'm like, oh man, there's this additional expense now. Yeah, I'm trying to get back on the wagon. It's been a little while since I've done I haven't done as much performing. I've done sketch. I had a sketch show for a while that I just finished that I was still doing every week, and that was super intense. But now it's like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing. So I wondered if there was any motherly advice you had for, and I know you said you don't give advice, but I'm just trying to maintain my creativity, but also, you know, be a stay-at-home mom and do all this stuff. How did you navigate it? Like, how were you able to figure it all out?
I think it's really hard. Like I had mentioned earlier, I am super lazy. And then, like, by the time night comes, I get real, like, I just need to be by myself a little bit, where I'm just, like, in a vegetative, like, I don't even like talking to my husband then at night. I'm just, like, I need, like, an hour of just me being quiet. And then, and I also think, like, I mean, I think you always have the writing, you know, as a creative outlet that you can go to. But I also think in those first, until they get, I mean, I don't want to disappoint you or anything, but like 5 years goes by really fast.
Yeah.
It's surprising. And then they're in school, and then you're like, oh, something gets lifted, and you're like, I get some life back now, you know? And I'm not saying like, oh, just cherish those 5 years. I really didn't enjoy those 5 years all that much. I mean, they were nice. Obviously, I love the kids and stuff like that. But once they got back into school, then I'm like, oh, I feel like, I think I just like structure of like, now I know, now you have some free time. It's not constant. Like, you can't get a lot done when they're there. This is one thing. Like I said, I don't like to give advice, but this is one thing that I've noted is like, don't even try to do stuff when they're there. Don't expect like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. Just be there. And then if you get something done, that's icing on the cake. But it's like when you're trying to do something and you can't, then you get frustrated, you know,
Totally.
of like,
Totally.
but if you're just like, well, today my only thing is to be here and like, you know, maintain our lives and feed everybody and keep everyone alive. And then you'll find that you can sneak in things to do. But like, if you're like, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done, and then you can't, then I think it gets frustrating. And you get hard, then you get down on yourself. And
Totally. Sue, you just saved me. I want you to know that was the best advice. I absolutely needed that advice.
No.
No, for real. I have been beating myself up about not being able to get stuff done. And like some days he's just like, you know, it's like he's 1.5. How much trouble could he be? But he's wild and he's insane and he needs so much attention. And And like at this point, I'm like, oh, well, I got to teach him stuff now. I can't just stare at him like when he was a baby in a little swing thing. Like, you know, now he's like, hey, what's this? And, you know, let's talk about colors. And I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta teach him this. I gotta read to him and do all sorts of things to like show him, you know, everything. So yeah, there's something I do really appreciate that because, you know, whenever I talk to people who are, you know, parents and are still doing creative stuff, it's like, you know, sometimes I talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I get up at 6 a.m. and I write for 2 hours and then by the time the baby wakes up and I'm like, what? Like, I just wake up in the morning when I hear him cry and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like he's my alarm. Like I don't think I could do other stuff. Like,
well, I mean, you're doing this. That is something.
It is something, yeah. I mean, this is a really great outlet for me, honestly. I'm lucky my husband's an audio engineer, and so he just set me up at my desk with like, you know, pretty much just a microphone and the interface to be able to record. And thankfully, I am able to, you know, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week have conversations with strangers about theater and creativity and just like life. And it is helpful. It is really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I just thank you. What you said, Sue, is it like took a weight off my shoulders. I was like, yeah, I am keeping this person alive. Okay. I can give myself credit for this part. Like, yeah, I feed him all his meals. I make sure he's eating healthy foods. Like, my child likes asparagus. I'm doing okay. Like, oh God.
Yeah, you know? And you'll be surprised that, you know, like slowly there'll be like little like eeks of time where you're like, oh, I could do this for a while. I'll do this for a little while. I'll do this for a little while. And then honestly, like, it's like I said, the 5 or 6 years before school goes by really slow and fast, like slow day by day, but also like fast because you're like, oh, that's it. That's the whole time that you feel like it's your, like right now you're just so in the thick of it that you can't, you like, it's hard to see that 5 years is nothing, you know, like, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not at all trying to be like, cherish every moment. I don't think you can do that until you're past it, really, you know? Yeah. And then once they're in school, it's like, oh, now I'm a functioning person again. Like, you're getting like a more normal amount of sleep. Everything's more predictable, you know?
Yeah.
And I do feel like now that, you know, my kids are 8 and 10 now, and I do feel like things are, like, I can be more productive now, again.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until they got back into school fully in kindergarten and first grade that I think you start to feel that way. At least I didn't.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I constantly am thinking about it. I'm like, oh, he'll be in school soon enough. I have a friend who is like also an improv teacher in town, and he has a child, and he was telling me about how, you know, he and his wife both do freelance the way my husband and I both do freelance. So it's a weird schedule. And I was like, how do you train your child that the world is 9 to 5 when your life isn't 9 to 5? And he was like, oh, we just started her on, you know, like graded levels of having to do that schedule. So he's like, we started with 2 days at a daycare, and then we went to 3 days when she went to pre-K, and then it's 5 days when she started kindergarten. So it was like eased her into it. And I was like, yeah, good plan. I like it. That's solid. And then also eases me in, where I'm like, ooh, I get 2 days to do stuff. Okay. Ooh, now I get 3 days. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's fun. But I, even though most of the parenting advice that I receive unsolicited, I throw away in the trash. In this case, both you and my friend who gave me the advice, I asked for it, I needed it, and you guys helped. So thank you for that. That was exactly what I needed. Whew,
okay.
All right. It's funny too, like as we were talking, I heard the baby cry and I got my little camera on him and I was like, is he all right? Oh, he's all right. Back to sleep.
Oh, good. Yeah.
For a second I was like, uh-oh, I gotta go.
Yeah.
But no, he's back to sleep. We're all safe and sound. Yeah, right. Technology. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a baby during this time of ultimate technology. I know. There's so much that makes my life easier that I'm like, how do people even do it?
Yeah.
Like I'm 40 and my baby's a year and a half, right? So when I got pregnant, I was 38, and my pregnancy was considered a geriatric pregnancy.
I was gonna say,
right? They make you feel super great.
For my first one, I was 36, and that was even geriatric.
Oh, yeah. If you're over 35, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
But my favorite part, and I keep telling my girlfriends who are in their 20s, I was like, wait, don't have a baby till after you're 35. And they're like, why? And I was like, because you get extra science. I had a secondary doctor who showed me, who had, the most high-def, ultrasounds a person's ever seen. I was like, what is that screen showing me? They're like, this is your insides. And I'm like, oh, what? It was just so high tech and so amazing that I was like, if I had had the baby without being able to stare at that screen once a month, I would have been very upset. But I was like, yeah, science. Look at this. Awesome. Right. I'll take getting the face. Plus, the other thing too is, I'm not just older. I wasn't just older. I'm also a plus-size lady. So they're all looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry. And everything's fine and everything's perfect. But it was just people giving you the eye of oh, you better watch out. I was like, I'm all right.
No.
I always err on the side of everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have to talk myself into that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of how how improv infused into me. I didn't start improv until I was in my 30s. 30 years old was when I took my first improv class. And it was it opened a door for me to finally be able to access positivity in a good way. I was like, oh, finally, good.
Yeah.
I can just try to think positive and whatever happens, happens, and I can just shake it off. And it's not, that's the beauty. Whenever I teach improv, it's if you have a bad scene, don't worry about it. It's over. You're done.
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with that anymore. We never have to talk about it again. You want to talk about it right now? Next scene, let's talk about the next one. We never have to deal with this. It's the best part. Oh, man. So I love that your current job involves people that you did improv with. You don't perform it much, but are you still involved in the community in Chicago? Are you still watching shows and knowing what's going on in the Chicago improv community? I mean, I know it's billions times bigger, but are you still sort of involved?
I mean, sort of, not a lot, but if we ever write a commercial that's getting made, casting, you learn the current improv people and but like I said, it's so much bigger. But I mean, basically, but I'm not a lot still involved. I don't go to too many shows. And sometimes at 10 in the morning, I miss it. I'm like, oh, it'd be so fun to do an improv show tonight. And then by 3:30, I'm like, God, thank God I don't have to be anywhere tonight. So I think if there was 11 a.m. improv shows anywhere, I would be involved still. But because they don't have those anymore or ever had, then I'm not. Yeah, I sometimes want to still do it, and then mostly I don't.
Are you working on any other creative writing projects right now, other than your advertising job?
Am I? No, I don't think I am. No.
Right on.
I mean, I will again when, in January, I'll start more consistently writing, but it's been a steady stream of like busy things since September.
Sure.
Just the boys, and then just personal things like birthday parties, and like that book got launched at the end of October, and
awesome.
it's just been like a lot of individual busy things. I even tried to do that NaNoWriMo, and I didn't do one single day of it.
I did the same thing. I'm still on the mailing list. Like, I get the newsletter. I get all the things. I've never done it once. I haven't done one day.
Yeah.
Not a single word. But I'm always like, you guys are great. I'm so glad for you. Look at you guys doing it. You know.
Well, there's a woman that I work with, and she just loves it, and she like speaks so highly of it. And she's actually getting 2 books published by HarperCollins next year, and she's like, I pushed back my due date, my deadlines, because I wanted to do NaNoWriMo? Yeah, I wanted to do NaNoWriMo again this year, so I pushed all my deadlines. So I'm like, oh, I gotta do this thing, and I signed up, and I did not do one single day. I got an email like yesterday that was like, how'd you do at NaNoWriMo?
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. I have no shame. I do not care. I'll try next year maybe, but you do what you can.
Honestly, I feel like November is such a hard month to put it in. Like,
I'm
you're
surprised.
right. If it were January,
why don't they do it in February?
Yeah, exactly.
When everyone's bunkered in. But
exactly.
it's like the holidays and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I used to be the person in charge of filling classes at the improv school a few years back, I would always be like, don't do any no new classes in November and December, because people just lose it, and I lose it. Like, I'm no longer useful in any way. From November to January 1st, from November 1st to January 1st, I am just confused and balancing money in a way that I'm not usually doing any other time of year, because I'm buying all these gifts, right? And then, like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. All of a sudden, by the end of December, I've got to have some sort of like renewing life lesson going, and I'm like, But like every other person in the whole world, as soon as that damn ball drops, I'm like, you know what? Maybe things are all right. Maybe it's going to be okay. I have a bunch of ideas. Let's do it. Like, January 1st, I'm all about it. But, man, November and December is like terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Is that why you said in January you'll probably get some work done? Are you also infused by the I can do it spirit that comes with the new year?
Well, I'm not so much. I've never done any resolutions or anything, but
sure.
But things just slow down then. And you know, in Chicago, you're like stuck inside for 2 months, and it's like something to do then, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's smart. I forget about that. I've lived in Texas now for so long that I forget about snow. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have even said that. That was kind of rude. But
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, and like February gets, like by February, you're like, I'm done with all this cold. And so February, we should try to propose a Febromimo. Wait, it's Nan, meaning what?
It's National Novel Writing Month.
Okay, so really?
It doesn't matter what month it is at all.
Okay, so Feb can be NaNoWriMo.
Yeah,
still.
For you. Totally can be.
For me. Yeah, my own personal NaNoWriMo.
Well, it's all about, I find that people that do that, it's all about the groups. You know what I mean? Like, they love being on the chat rooms that are like, hey, you can do it. Well, you know, you should start up a thread who's like, who else like me didn't get anything done in November? Want to try again in February? And maybe you get 5 or 6 people. Twitter, too. Yeah. If you use the hashtag #amwriting, that's how I've made a significant, crowd of friends is just by using that hashtag. And all of a sudden I have people that will like send me supportive stuff. And if I'm posting, hey, I worked on this, they're like, that's so cool. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. Positivity. I like when people tell me it's going to be good, you know? So, yeah, it's just,
but I am a little disappointed that we don't get to change that I really thought the no in that was for November. NaNoWriMo. So we don't get to change it at all then.
No, you can say NaFebRimo if it makes you feel better.
I know. NaFebRimo, it's really hard. It doesn't stick in there right.
Yeah, the
forget
B
it.
and
I'm
the
out.
W.
I'm out. Yeah.
Get Law and Order on right now. Where's Ice-T?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. Sue, it has been a joy to chat with you. Thank you so much for telling me about your life and sharing your adventures, all of the wild stories of your tours and writing adventures. Like, so cool. I really just appreciate you sharing it with me and with my audience. Thank you very much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope I was appropriate. I hope I said anything interesting.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why Podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.